Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about the movie Shin Godzilla. Now, if you haven't seen my other Godzilla video, I would recommend watching that first. I just go over why the original 1954 Godzilla movie is better than any of the others, and how the American Godzilla movies don't stack up because they're thematically not the same. Just watch the video, come back here, and then we'll all be on the same pace. Shin Godzilla is an amazing movie directed by Hideaki Anno, who directed the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. And unlike that anime, this movie is not super confusing. This movie has very clear themes which have a lot in common with the original Godzilla movie, which is what makes a Godzilla movie good. Without these themes, it is just any other monster movie. But what I really like about it is it takes the original themes and adapts it into a more modern setting, because 1954 was shortly after World War II, and that's where a lot of the, almost all of the influence comes from. In this one, a lot of the influence comes from the fact that Japan doesn't seem to have its own military because of the United States, rendering them defenseless against something like Godzilla, and also how the government's hierarchy or bureaucracy prevents progress from being made in a timely manner. Now, this movie really goes at it with that. They start off in one meeting room talking about, oh, there's a giant creature in the ocean, and when the creature evolves and has a tail, they have to move to another room to have another discussion, and then they have to move to another room once it gets on land, and move to another room once it grows legs, etc., etc. They're not getting anything done. They're spending half the time walking from place to place just to have the same conversation in a different room. Now, clearly what's going on here is Hideaki Anno is pointing out that the government did not react fast enough in the 2011 tsunami situation to handle a nuclear reactor going off. If that's not what the metaphor is, then there is no metaphor, because it's just so clean cut. So Godzilla in this movie evolves repeatedly throughout the film, always adapting to the environment, first being able to swim and then crawl and then stand and then defend himself. Back to the original themes from the first movie, the US Army threatens to nuke Tokyo in an attempt to stop Godzilla, and obviously the Japanese government would like to find an alternative that doesn't rely on nuclear explosions killing its endless number of people and potentially not even killing Godzilla. So the main character, Yaguchi, is just someone that works for the Japanese government, and he kind of climbs his way up from being totally kind of not respected or just being ignored to taking leadership and finding a way to make everyone work together in like the hardest of times. And that's another theme about Godzilla movies. This movie is trying to say that people need to get together and make decisions now because we can't waste time. But yeah, no, it's such a fantastic movie. The only thing that I think the American films have on this movie is better CG. The CG in this movie is iffy and sometimes terrible. Particularly this train scene there, where the train is very clearly animated. But this movie did not have an extreme budget. The redesign for Godzilla was pretty great. His tail is much longer. His entire face has a different shape. And I like that his eyes are a lot smaller, because he's always had a goofier look when his eyes were really large. One thing I don't really like is the way his mouth unhinges in 4 directions. I guess that's 2 directions. Yeah, 4 directions. But yeah, no, he adapts throughout the film to just take any attack. He grows thicker skin. He gains this ability to cover over his eyes when he's shooting fire. And his fire evolves into lasers, and he goes from shooting them out of his mouth to shooting them out of his dorsal fins and even out of his tail. After using pretty much all the military power they could get, that's when the US decides we need to nuke Tokyo. There's no other way. And that's when Yaguchi has to take leadership and figure out what other way do they have. And they start working with various other countries to get a coagulant so that they could potentially freeze him instead of just blow him up. One thing I love about this movie is they reuse soundtracks and sound effects from the original Godzilla film. I am a sucker for nostalgia, and even the Legendary Pictures American movie. The Legendary Pictures Godzilla has remade soundtracks from the original movie, and I was very happy to hear those. But in this movie, they just straight up reuse the originals, including the roar that Godzilla has. It might be a little bit lazy, but if it isn't broken, then don't fix it. When I first saw this film, it was before I had watched the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, and after watching that anime, I noticed that one of the battle songs in the movie was a song from the anime, and I found that hilarious. There she is. And that left a huge sticky mark on my PC. Why did I do that? Oh no, it doesn't stick anymore. Way. I screwed up. It doesn't stick anymore. So, is this movie a perfect reboot of the original Godzilla movie? I'd say it's not quite perfect, but it is fantastic, and it is the best Godzilla movie in a very long time. It didn't need other monsters in it. It just needed people, and the story with the people was far more interesting than it usually is in a Godzilla movie. The movie ends on one of the greatest visual metaphors I've ever seen. If you don't want to know how it ends, come back after watching the movie. I don't know why you made it this far without watching the movie. Anyway, so Godzilla's final evolution in this film is shown at the very end of the film after he's been frozen. At the top of his tail is crawling off a humanoid shaped creature, or a bunch of humanoid shaped creatures. And it is commonly agreed on that the metaphor here is that the one thing Godzilla could turn into to make him more dangerous than he already was to turn into humans. And that's pretty much what the theme was of the first movie in 1954. That Godzilla was a monster and he was destroying the world, but he was not as dangerous to humanity as humanity is. One thing I felt like this movie was missing compared to the original is more of people. Aside from the government characters, the civilians in the movie are always just shown running and screaming. But in the original Godzilla movie, we got clips of people crying and telling their children that things are going to be okay, and we didn't get enough focus on the civilians' reactions to this. It's always been running and screaming. But I understand that that would take away from the main character Yaguchi and the Prime Minister. It's very clear in this movie that the Prime Minister was not prepared for any of this, which again reflects the 2011 situation in real life. But yeah, that is why I think that Shin Godzilla is the best Godzilla movie in half a century. I guess more than half a century. It's like almost 70 years. And I'm excited to see what comes out next regarding Godzilla, because I think that the previous Japanese movie was 2004. So about 11 years before that one, and now it's been another 12 years between Final Wars and Shin Godzilla, and 6 years between then and now. Again, Godzilla is such a huge impact on my life. I grew up watching all the movies, I wanted all the toys, I had all the games. Growing up and learning what the movie actually meant made it even more meaningful to me, because as a child I just wanted to see a monster movie, and as an adult I got a story with historical context and a theme that basically tells humanity to be better. Anyways, if you've seen the movie before, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. If you disagree with what I said, then explain why. If you haven't already, you should hop into my Discord server. We can talk about Godzilla. But anyways, thanks for watching.